If you're thinking about getting into growth operating or the IPGA space, this video is for you. So we got up the Guru whiteboard, and first and foremost, disclaimer, who am I? My name is Nate Morsey. I've been in the high ticket space for 3 years now, done over $3 million in revenue, not profit. Big difference. That's just multiple six figures in take home for me in terms of commission. So I wanted to break down 3 different models for you. So we have 2 on the board, one I'm going to draw up later. But here's the first thing you got to understand about the growth operating model is this is typically how it works. You have your growth operator and you have your content creator. Usually you message hundreds, if not thousands of people via Instagram DMs who are creating content, but they're not monetizing their audience. From there, you book a sales call. On that sales call, you mention, hey, I'm going to help you monetize your audience, usually in the form of a paid community, and we're going to split the profits. Sound good? Very hard sell to just take away 50% of a creator's monetization. Very difficult, but let's say you do it. Some people even include a setup fee. From there, you're essentially going to take the organic traffic with CTAs. Usually the funnel just goes organic traffic to, a free school community, or maybe it's a lead magnet. You provide a bunch of value for free, and then you have your paid community on the back end to convert them. That's usually how it works. So here's the one thing to note, and this is coming from a dude who's launched paid communities as well. It is extremely difficult to do. I don't think people understand. This whole 1% rule, where it's 1% of a creator's audience will buy something from them. If they have 20,000 followers and you think you can get 200 people to pay $20 a month, whatever it is, A, that's not a lot of money. And 2, you have the boogeyman, which is known as churn. So for those of you who don't know what churn is, that's essentially the cancellation rate. What percent of your clients next month will leave the community, will cancel the subscription. And that's literally why I shut my community down, because I will tell you right now, I don't like subscriptions. I don't think anyone does. But there's creative ways you can go about minimizing churns, whether it's giveaways in the form of money, one-on-one calls, whatever it is. There's ways you can mitigate it, but it's low ticket. That's the growth operator model. Personally, not the biggest fan of it. If you are good, do you. I'm going to show you something in my opinion that's done better. So an info agency. Now, I am not coining this term, none of that. That's just the most simple fucking way that I can describe this business model to you, because it's already being done. People are already doing this. Offers that I've sold for, this is quite literally the model that they use. And I'm going to keep it extremely simple. So in an info agency, you go to a creator, a content creator, whatever it is, influencer, and you say, hey, we're going to monetize your audience. We're going to sell a high ticket info product to your audience. That's usually the pitch, right? So you have the same form of outreach, the same form of getting a creator on a sales call to close them. Now, the important thing to note about this model is a lot of your work, a majority, 80-20 rule, is front loaded. So in terms of your spread on, the cash collected, the revenue, whatever you want to call it, would be, you could do hey, we're going to start at, 50%, then month 2, it goes down to 40, then month 3, it goes down to 30, whatever it is, and then it flatlines, it stays that way, whatever you want to do, or you just take 25% plus a setup fee. And how the process works is you do your market research, right? You reach out to creators' audience. What do they want? What are they struggling with? Are they financially qualified to do so? Figure out where the nail is before you swing the hammer. So what a lot of people do in both these models is they build out this whole course or this whole paid community, whatever it is, and then when it's time to sell it, it's actually time to launch the product, no one wants their shit because they did not do market research. So this is probably the most simple way to make an offer that converts is figure out where the nail is and then get out your hammer. Don't just be walking around just trying to bang shit. Figure out where the nail is and then hit it with a hammer. And then what you can do is you have your paid/organic traffic with CTAs to usually bring them to a landing page, whether it's ClickFunnels, whatever you want to do. And you have your VSL, your video sales letter, right? And then after your VSL, you have, your testimonials, your case studies. You send them to an application, right? It's where they figure out what's your goal, what are you struggling with, how much are you willing to invest in yourself, how much do you make a month right now, how much do you want to make a month, all that stuff. Figure out who it is you're talking to. If the application's good, you can trigger an automation to get them directly to a sales call on the calendar where they have the option to just book directly. If the application's bad, they just turn into an outbound lead, right? And at that point, you have setters call them, try and make a triage, essentially make sure they're qualified. If they are, book them to a sales call. Now the difference here is if you want to go off that 1% rule that we were talking about earlier, right? You have a client with 20K followers, 200 people will buy from him, right? It is much easier, in my opinion, let's just cut that in half from 200 to 100, to get 100 people to pay 5K than it is to get 200 people to pay 19. It's much, much easier, way easier to do. And the reason I know this is because I've sold products for 5,800 and 19K, 25K. Like it's much easier to do. It's the concept of leverage. So from there, you sell them a high ticket offer. And here's the deal. A lot of people with like, the info agency or the growth operator, the reason why they like the model is it's MRR, it's monthly reoccurring revenue. But here's a way to do it. Because like I've been able to get MRR as literally a setter and a closer without a subscription-based model. And here's what you do is if you have 5K, you have Joe Schmo on your sales call, he's like, hey, Nate, look, I just can't afford it right now. When we dig into his finances, he's like, all I have is 5K. Like literally I'm gonna be shaking, soup cans under a bridge to make this work. I don't wanna put that guy in a bad financial situation. So what am I gonna do? Hey, Joe Schmo, completely fine, let's do this. If we're able to divvy up the buy-in for you to get through the door, are you rock solid on moving forward today? He says, yes, awesome. So we divvy it up. We do 2.5K now, we do 2.5K next month. And then you stack those up, it generates way more consistent months. It's literally the model I learned from an info company that did over $3 million in 1 month. It's just divvying it up. It gives you some MRR. So that is the basics between the two models, right? But here's the main difference is you can get way more by selling high ticket than you can by going the paid community route. It's way more scalable because you're making more money off each person. And also too, then based on your market research, you can make sure you actually get results. Your fulfillment's rock solid. And then from here with the info agency, if you really like are about this life, okay? This is for like beginners, noobs, if that. Gonna be extremely difficult to get clients. This, extremely difficult as well. I'm not saying it's impossible, but if you have like a background in preferably sales, maybe copy, you can do these models. But the last one, I'm not even gonna come up with a name for this shit, but picture it like this, is these two models, the biggest issue within them is essentially you have to launch info in both. Like in both these models, you're launching info, which is difficult. Like if you've never sold info, it's really hard to get an info product off the ground, or at least it can be, right? So what you could do, if you really want to get creative, you actually have a reputation, you've banged out this process a couple times, is you can go to companies that are already selling info and help them get from 50 to 100K to 300 to 500K. And then if you have a 10% or a 20% essentially like spread on their total revenue on a monthly basis, you're making way more fucking money per one client and your work's front loaded. So like, let me break this down for you. Is this model, once you have done it, like once you have proof of concept, I will tell you right now from experience, I had an offer for an interview. This was like a month ago, 2 months ago. They had an Amazon FBA offer that they did 7 figures a month in. And then they created a new offer and they're stuck at 50K a month. The problem with this offer is the guy who is like trying to essentially get me to like take on the closing role for the company was, oh, it's our closer. Like he's not closing at a good clip. And then I was like, okay, like some of the sales calls, I go through some of the objections. I'm like, dude, no, your leads suck ass. Like your leads, they're terrible. Your traffic's garbage. It's doo-doo, my guy. And I was trying to break this down to him. He was just so caught up in his ways. But if you can essentially call it an info agency, whatever it is, you come to a business, they're already doing 100K a month, right? And they have 3 setters and 1 closer. And their funnel is they have, 500K followers on IG, and then in their bio, it's a link tree with like 8 different links. Their funnel sucks. So you can come into their business, you can tweak their funnel, you can like essentially refine the setter scripts, making them like triage qualify a little bit harder, and then revamp the closing scripts. And obviously have their automations, make their CRMs make it more streamless. Like make sure their pre-call process is dialed in, all this shit. And then you can take 20%, right? So if you can get them from 100K to, let's say, 300K, right there, you have 60K a month off one fucking client. And dude, I'm telling you right now, there's so much money in info, like so much. And a lot of these systems are literally trash, actual garbage. Like, just come out and say it. There was one, they were doing like 300K to 500K a month without renewals. Process, trash, garbage. Automation's terrible. Like their lead flow, like their workflow for leads, absolute trash. And I know wholeheartedly that if someone who's actually skilled came to that business, they could get them from $300 to $1 million a month. So those are the three different types of business models. So in my opinion, if you're thinking about getting into the growth operating space, almost in all scenarios, it makes 10 times more sense to run a call funnel and to sell high ticket, right? You can do the setting process yourself. You can bring in setters, you can bring in closers. If you already have the experience in sales like I do, it's gonna make your process way easier. And then once you get the proof of concept, you can actually come to people who are already selling info and help them scale. It's much harder to take someone from, no experience to good than it is to take someone from good to great. It's just tweaks. It's literally just systems. So that is the process. I hope it makes sense. I literally have nothing to fucking sell you when it comes to this shit, but crush it. I hope you found value in this, dude.